While Netflix continues to expand the Marvel world with its most different and daring series yet. Hey guys, it's Cameron for the series premiere of the highly anticipated next Marvel show, Luke Cage. This is Season 1, Episode 1, Moment of Truth. And guys, obviously, I was very looking forward to this premiere. I mean, Marvel, in terms of, Netflix, they've just been killing it. I mean, between Daredevil, Jessica Jones, just everything they've been putting out, so far at least, has been fantastic. I've loved everything that they've been doing. I think they're doing a really great job in putting stuff on Netflix that they won't be able to put on TV, and I think they're doing a very good job with that. And Luke Cage was going to be another great show from Netflix, and overall, how was Luke Cage? Luke Cage, so far, from this first episode to me, seems like it could end up being the best of the Netflix Marvel series so far. This show is very different than anything Marvel has done. It doesn't even feel like a Marvel show, and very much is trying to be definitely trying to be its own thing, and I definitely really did love that overall. But let's just get in this first episode, because there is a lot to talk about, but something about this first episode is that this doesn't really feel like a premiere, and it's mainly because we are focusing, our main character is already a pre-established character. We know the character of Luke Cage from Jessica Jones. There's a lot of stuff we found out about him, and I think the episode really does benefit from that, because we're kind of just immediately thrown into what Luke Cage is going through. But let's just get in this first episode, because I definitely do want to talk about it. Right off the bat, we get to see the stunning cinematography with a shot of Lenox Avenue, the first clue that we're in Upper Manhattan, and it pans down to a barbershop, and inside we meet the barbershop owner, Pops, and his arrogant young clientele, who keep violating his no swear rule in the shop, which I thought that was interesting that we saw. I don't know if we saw this in Jessica Jones, but Luke Cage and this owner, Pops, they are very much against swearing, and I thought that was kind of interesting to see. And Luke, in the meantime, he's kind of just sweeping floors and completing janitorial duties. And I love how low-key Luke is in this first episode. He's not a hero yet. He doesn't feel like one, and he's anything but, a actual, he's not your typical hero, and I really did like that. But when he's not busy anxiously pacing in the back room, which he's also doing, we see, and I thought it was a very interesting way to set things up. They're going back and forth about, sports and everything, and basically, there's this, basketball debate on what's going on there. The guys being very rude, and I thought it was definitely a very good way to set things up. I definitely really did love it overall, and we see that he works there, but then we really get into the big stuff where something is definitely bothering Luke. I mean, Pops can tell that something's going on. He knows that it's Reva, and something I really do like is that they don't really talk about Jessica Jones a lot. I mean, yes, the last time we saw Luke, he was in fact shot in the head from Jessica, and then he went with Claire, and we don't know where he went after that, but it's barely mentioned in the show, mainly because Luke Cage did not have the fond connection to Jessica Jones that he once had. I mean, she clearly isn't really a part of his life right now, and he's clearly trying to move on. They did a really good job with that, especially for people who haven't seen Jessica Jones. You can just jump right into this. You don't have to see the other stuff, and basically, obviously, we see that he is, in fact, grieving over Reva. Now that he knows more about Reva, knowing that, how she was killed and that Jessica killed her, and Pop obviously knows Luke's secret too, and he questions Luke's ambition, but Luke makes it clear that he wants to be left the hell alone, and I thought this was interesting to see, actually. We see that Luke, he doesn't want to be this hero right now, and, he's even calling him Power Man, and he thinks that Luke should be out there helping people like these folks downtown, but Luke just wants to run from his powers, and he feels like they've ruined his entire life, which I can understand. I mean, especially the amount of shit that Luke has already been through in his life, that we've seen from Jessica Jones. You can already tell why he's feeling this way. And Pop says that the past is the past, and the only direction is forward, never backward, and I really do like that, because that's really what this show seems to be about. It's about Luke really moving forward from the damage he's had in his life, and can he move forward from that? And I thought that was a very good way of setting things up. I really did like it overall. And something I noticed right off the bat is that these two have incredible chemistry. They work very well together. It's the only scene we see of Pop in this episode, but already I'm real loving what he's doing here. I can understand why Luke calls him Pop, because he very much is like a father figure, and I can't wait to see more of that dynamic as the show goes on. I thought it was just a very good way to start it. But out behind the shop, Luke bumps into one of the kids from Pop's hoops discussion, Chico, and he's packing a gun, and I like that the show really, this is a very much a meandering kind of episode. A lot of this episode is Luke meeting people and Luke being out on the street and just not acting like we want him to act. And it's frustrating, but it's supposed to be. I mean, you want Luke to be a hero and everything, but again, he doesn't want to be that way. He's trying to move on from it. And Chico blows him off, but file that away for later, especially since his friend says, let's get the money. So basically, Luke has another job, but while he's on his way out there, his landlord reveals his rent is 10 days late, and Genji's Connie says she needs the rest of it tonight, which is crazy, which is very interesting to see, and it's a very realistic situation, especially in Harlem, and I think what this also did very well is it very much shows that Harlem really is the real villain here. I mean, you can just tell how shitty of a life everyone's kind of having, and then we get into Luke's other job, which his other job is washing dishes at a nightclub called Harlem's Paradise, and we see this guy, Raphael Sadig, performing, which is a real performer, and I thought it was kind of cool. But basically, we see one bartender sick. Luke is asked to fill in behind the bar, and obviously we know that he can do that because we know that he did that in Jessica Jones. But again, this doesn't feel like Jessica Jones 2.0, because this is a much different Luke Cage. The Luke Cage in Jessica Jones was a lot more confident. He was kind of funny, but this Luke Cage is very hard and he's very dark, and he's just not really like that. So Harlem's Paradise is owned by Mr. Stokes, that would be Cornell Stokes, otherwise known as Cottonmouth, and his cousin, Councilwoman Mariah Dillard, is also present. It's immediately apparent that he's into shady dealings, while she is the respectable face of whatever joint venture they have planned. We don't really know exactly what's going on there, but I thought they did a really good job with setting this up, because a lot of this episode very much does focus on Cottonmouth. Not that we don't focus on Luke, but Cottonmouth really is something that we did very well here. And interestingly enough, I think this is the first Netflix series to introduce this villain in the first episode, because in Daredevil, Wilson Fisk wasn't introduced till episode 3, and then in Jessica Jones, Kilgrave was mentioned in episode 1, but he wasn't seen till episode 2. So I thought it was honestly kind of an astute choice to show Cottonmouth. It already is telling me this is going to be a much different type of villain, and definitely the villain we see here is a lot different than your Wilson Fisk or your Kilgrave. I mean, this guy, he is definitely very evil, but there's just something about him, and he's also kind of vulnerable, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but basically we see, he's meeting with his cousin, Mariah, a councilwoman who's trying to make Harlem great again, is trying to do so without using her cousin's dirty money. But she's not afraid to get her hands dirty. We found out that she actually used federal grants and tax-deductible funds to build this club, and unfortunately it'll be a while before she can put that money back, because one of Cottonmouth's weapons actually goes sideways when basically, and I thought that was interesting that we saw that. But down at the bar, it's not long before Luke Cage is engaged in witty banter with an attractive female guest. She seems to be keeping a close eye on whatever deal Cottonmouth is closing upstairs, and I don't really know who this woman was, but she plays it off when Luke questions it, and it's actually weapons, not drugs, which I thought was interesting that we saw. And Mariah is present when she notes nothing's ever that easy. The deal that Cottonmouth is brokering with a local gang goes south when it's attacked by armed men in ski masks. This really bloody shootout ensues, which it's really bloody. I mean, I forgot how graphic these Netflix shows are, but damn, they're really graphic. And Chico, we find out, is one of the assassins. Dante, the supposedly sick bartender, expresses his concern that Cottonmouth will know it's an inside job. He's shot by the ringleader for his trouble. Very well done scene, may I just add. There's not a lot of action in this episode, but the action that's in this episode is really, really great because of how sparse it is, and they did a really great job with every action scene they had, really building that momentum. I really did love it overall, and Dante calls Cottonmouth to let him know, what went down and everything, but Shamik ends up trying to kill him. He doesn't end up succeeding, and I thought it was interesting the way that was done. But again, I think that perfectly just puts us in the action. So Luke is conversing with the female at the bar. It's going very well. He's asked to help deliver some liquor to Cottonmouth's table, and Cottonmouth and his cousin belittle Luke a bit, and Cage turns down his offer of a better paying job that will require carrying a gun. And amazingly, Dante's not dead. In fact, he actually calls one of Cottonmouth's men with the bad news. Now, I don't know how he lived, but somehow he's alive. And with his shift over, Cage continues his flirtation with the woman from the bar. She finally asks him to go for coffee, and obviously, like Pop suggested earlier, it's actually code for something else. We get this very interesting sex scene between the two, but I thought they did a good job of not making it too overly sexual. Jessica Jones, I think, is as far as we've gone with that, but I was surprised by how far it went, definitely. But again, this is a very different show, and we definitely do see that here. So his shift over, we see he then has this brief dream that appears to be him, a flashback to him getting beaten up in jail, and he's awoken by the woman's phone. And we don't know, what's really that's all about, but I don't think we knew this before, but Luke, in fact, was in jail, and that's something that I think we might have touched upon briefly in Jessica Jones, but definitely is going to be one of the bigger points of Luke Cage. It's less about him and Jessica Jones' adventures and more about things in his past, and definitely him in jail. He's very much haunted by that, and I think it was interesting what we saw there, because we don't know the real reason why Luke Cage was in jail. We know obviously he was, but we don't really know why, and he's awoken by, Misty's phone, and she tells someone that she's on her way in, and asked about her job. She claims to be an auditor, that's what she's doing, and that's everything that's going on there, but I think we can tell from this scene that definitely she's not that. And we see very quickly that she is not an auditor. She's, in fact, a detective called in to survey the weapons deal gone bad. She actually knows Dante and his mom, and this really adds this interesting twist here, because it totally makes sense why she was acting the way she did. Why she was so interested in getting this research on Cottonmouth, why she was so interested in investigating what was going on there. Clearly she's going to cover up that she's, a detective, because, maybe she doesn't really want anyone to know what she's doing, but we also meet her partner, Detective Scarf, who doesn't really leave much of an impression in this first episode, but Missy conveniently forgets to tell her partner about hooking up with the replacement bartender while she was undercover at the club. Now, we don't really know why she covered this up from Luke. I don't really know either, but obviously she's undercover, but very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing really where that character is going to go, but I really did like that. So, excuse me. So, Cottonmouth is in damage control mode. He's trying to convince the gang leader Domingo that he actually can, in fact, make things right, and, because it seems that he has a lot of people against him, and especially after that shootout, they really don't trust him, and this guy Stokes, calls Shades, Shades, and he wanders in, and he's representing Cottonmouth's weapons connection, Diamondback, who we don't get to meet Diamondback in this episode, but basically, he lies when asked if it was an inside job, and despite that, Shades says his employer wants him to win and offers his assistance, and right away, Shades, that's the perfect name, because Shades is a very shady character. We don't really know much about him in this first episode, but what we do, in fact, know is that, basically, what we do know about Shades is that he likes sunglasses a lot. He was in prison the same time as Luke Cage, and Luke said his name in his sleep. So we know that there's a connection between Shades and Luke. We don't know of what connection it was, but definitely something is going on between Shades and Luke, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that, because I think that was very interesting, and I think they set up the character pretty well. Right away you can tell something about this guy just doesn't rub you the right way, and, obviously this guy is definitely not good, we can tell. So Pop tells Luke that the gunmen were kids he left hang at the barbershop to keep them off the streets, and we see Luke lies when asked if he saw anything going on with any of them, which is a very curious decision, because he did in fact see what was going on. And I don't know if it's because Pop doesn't know Luke's other life, or if he doesn't really know what's going on there, but the fact that Luke is lying and he's not telling the truth, I thought it was interesting that we saw that, because it seems that Luke, I don't know if he's protecting them or if he's trying to keep the club in a good reputation. I can't really tell, but there's obviously a reason why he didn't tell Pop the truth. I'm looking forward to seeing what that reason was. But Mariah's out pressing the flesh. She's trying to sell the press on her vision of Harlem because she feels that she's the one to turn Harlem around, that she can make things better. Now, Harlem's not in the best condition, but Cottonmouth pays her a visit, thugs in tow, and she's upset about the bad deal and demands money her cousin promised because, again, she doesn't want to be involved with all that, all the, shady shit that's going on. And we see Cottonmouth's right-hand man does have some info about the other men involved, including Chico, and it looks like the ringleader is busy spending a share of the money in a strip club, basically, we see, which I thought was interesting. And Luke has this brief encounter with Cottonmouth's men, passing out flyers for Mariah's Christmas attack center, and we still don't really know exactly what's going on. We just know that Mariah wants to turn around Harlem, and Cottonmouth obviously isn't giving her the money, but I feel like she's definitely going to get a lot more deeper into this. But we see Stokes playing the keyboard with a scantily clad woman in his office, and he's actually pretty good, honestly. He's a pretty good player. And at Harlem's Paradise, Luke sees that Shameik, the brains of the hit of the gun deal, has been located. And he has another prison flashback when he sees Shades, who walks by, and very well done scene. I really did like the way this was done, because you can tell that something is going to happen here, and that you don't know what's going to happen exactly, but you can just tell from the scene something definitely substantial is going to happen. I mean, the second he sees Shades, I'm like, there's going to be something that goes on here. I mean, all the characters already are meeting, and Cottonmouth is smacking around Shameik, which this by far, to me, was one of the best scenes of this entire episode. We see Cottonmouth. He has this Biggie poster, which I thought was awesome, talking about Biggie and how he has everything, and he's smacking around Shameik, demanding the location of his money, a cool million, which is pretty crazy, but specifically Chico's half of it. And angered when Shameik spits on him, Cottonmouth violently beats him to death, spraying blood all over himself in the process. And I like that we stayed on Cottonmouth for the duration of this scene, because this scene's supposed to show us the rage in Cottonmouth, just what he's able to do, and that even though this is a guy who is working for a bunch of other guys, this is a guy you definitely don't want to mess with. I mean, he's very powerful, and you definitely see that. And he tells this guy Tone to get his money, which Tone actually was a character apparently in Daredevil that we saw. I don't remember because he was a very small character, but I thought it was interesting we saw that here, and I really did like that overall. But again, I thought this was definitely one of the high points of the episode. I really love what they did with Cottonmouth, and I can't wait to see, where else they're going to go with this character. This shows you that while Cottonmouth is a guy that's very negotiable, he is someone that if you mess with him, he will kick your ass, and you definitely do see that, and I overall really did like the way that was done. So Luke then wonders if Shades recognized him, because he certainly did recognize him, and he has another flashback, this time to Riva, and he's speaking to a picture of his late wife. He says, "I'm clear, I'm focused, I promise, I'm ready," and I think he's talking about how he's ready to move on, he's ready to start his new life, and again, I like the way that that's really anchoring the show, his whole relation with Riva. We obviously knew of it in Jessica Jones, but we're really going to get more into it in this show, and I really do like that. So, Misty and her partner get the call on Shameik's body, dumped on a random street. They connect the dots between the two victims, and they realize that they need to find Chico. And the partner suggests talking to the substitute bartender, and the woman reluctantly agrees that that's what they need to do. They need to do whatever they can to find him. They don't know where he is, but we quickly see Chico. He's sitting somewhere looking at a pile of cash, and Mariah's going over more plans, Cottonmouth cleaning up, and Genji's Connie is being held up by bat-welding thugs for refusing to contribute to Mariah's complex, and Luke steps in, calmly tells him to stop, saying if he really brought it to them, he'll kill them, and he's not wrong about that, because we know that Luke has been trying to avoid being the hero, but that is exactly what he does in this scene, and I love that, because this is what we expected from Luke Cage the second we were introduced to him in the show, but no, it doesn't happen until the end of the episode. The first guy to step to Luke painfully breaks his hand on Luke's bulletproof skin, bats, bullets, no dice, and Luke tosses most of them around, one flying clean out the front window. The last thug standing wisely chooses to run instead of getting some of the same, and Connie tries to pay him, which he declines, saying he's not for hire. Luke does tell her husband that he's got her to ease his fears about the bad guys coming back, and he puts his hood up, basically ready to be a hero and kind of be in the shadows, and that is the way the episode ends. Really good stuff overall, but let's get more in the show, because I definitely do want to talk about it. So overall, this premiere was really different than I think any other premiere that Marvel has done. And I'm going to get more into that, but first let's get into the cast, because that's really one of the major things to talk about. Now, at this point, it really should not be a surprise that I'm telling you that Mike Colter is absolutely fantastic as this character of Luke Cage. I mean, I knew the second he was introduced in Jessica Jones that this would be perfect casting, and that's something that Netflix tends to do. They tend to cast perfect people to play these roles, and Mike Colter is one of the best they've had. I mean, he is just so great as this character of Luke Cage, and again, I think they made a wisely intelligent decision to focus less on what we already know about Luke Cage and focus more on the aspects that we kind of touched upon Jessica Jones, but we're going to touch upon a lot more here, such as, you know, his relationship with his wife, or him being in prison, or him just not really wanting to be a hero. We can already tell from this first episode, Luke Cage does not feel like he's a hero. In fact, he's a fugitive, and he's basically trying to rebuild his life, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where that's going to go. But he also has this really dry wit to him, and I really do like that about his character. He's very funny, but he also, you really do feel for him. They did a very good job of getting us to feel for Luke Cage, and again, they didn't really need a ton of exposition to set up his character because we already know his character, and that really did benefit from this. And I can already tell that getting into Luke Cage's character, he's a much different character than, say, a Daredevil or a Jessica Jones, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where his character is going to go, what we're going to do with this character, and overall, just what Mike Colter is able to do with this character. He's already giving a very layered performance. He's already shown what he can do as Jessica Jones, and I think Luke Cage is only going to expand on what he's able to do as an actor and a performer. However, the rest of the characters, of course, we didn't know in this show. These are, in fact, new characters, and I have to say that as good as Mike Colter was, by far the standout of this episode was Mahershala Ali as Cottonmouth. I love this character. This guy is incredible. He feels like one of those actors that I've seen in something. I thought at first that he was Michael K. Williams because he looks like Michael K. Williams, but he's not. I can't think of exactly what he's in. I'm sure he was in something I've seen, but this character is just so layered because while he is kind of like the villain of the show, just like Kilgrave and just like Wilson Fisk, you really feel for him. I mean, this is a guy who, he's not just, you know, the leader of this group. He is the owner, but he's working for other people, and that really does add to his character, and that's very different than what they've done. I mean, Kilgrave was one of the most powerful villains we've had in Marvel, and Wilson Fisk, I mean, that guy, we already know how powerful he is. Cottonmouth, on the other hand, is a whole different character altogether, and I can't wait to see where he's gonna go. His scene, you know, like I said, where he is beating up, you know, where he's beating up, what's his name, to a pulp. I think that alone just really sold me into his character. I love what they do with him. I think that he was incredible in this first episode, and he by far is going to be one of the standouts of the show. I know they've said he's kind of like a Godfather type villain. I definitely did like that. His obsession with rap music I also really like. Just his character in general, I can't wait to see more of. He was fantastic, and I can't wait to see where he's going to go throughout the course of the show, and especially him and Luke Cage. There's a lot of similarities between these two, and I can't wait to see when we eventually set up their eventual confrontation. And again, this is the first Marvel show to show us the villain in the first episode, and that was a very wise choice since we already know about Luke Cage. We focus on the other characters, and Cottonmouth by far is the most interesting of the bunch. However, the rest of the cast is really great. Simone Missick as Misty Knight. This is someone who I feel like wouldn't have left much of an impression on me if it had been any other actress, but she really did. I mean, this is a character that is her own person. We can tell right off the bat that she's not just going to be some love interest for Luke Cage. She clearly does want to know more about Luke Cage, and we don't really know why she's investigating him or what's really going on there. But clearly there's more going on. How she knew, you know, Chico, the connection she has to Luke Cage. I mean, overall, it's just going to be very interesting. I really did like what she had to do as his character, and I think she really is great. I love what she had to do here. Theo Rossi, I've obviously seen Theo Rossi before in Sons of Anarchy, who's great on that show, but his character of Shades is very, very mysterious. Now, obviously, he's called Shades because of the sunglasses he wears, but also because of the fact that he has ties to Luke's past, and we don't know what went down between these two in jail, but it definitely hints that whatever happened to them really did affect Luke and pretty much made him the man he is today. So I can't wait to see where he's gonna go. He just seems like a very, very violent, very just mysterious character, and I can't wait to see where his character's going to go overall. He was fantastic, and already I like this character more than Juice. Juice was not a bad character in Sons of Anarchy. It's just his character, I don't think he was bad. I just feel like Shades overall is going to be a very interesting character, and I can't wait to see where they're going to go with him. Erik, LaRay, Harvey, we didn't really get to meet his character of Diamondback. We know that obviously he is connected to Cottonmouth, and he pretty much is Cottonmouth's boss, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we're going to see with him, but we didn't really see much of him. And the only other person I'm really going to talk about is Alfre Woodard as Mariah Dillard. Blew me away. I thought she was incredible in the show. I love how she's the one that wants to bring a change to Harlem, but the question is, does she really realize what she's getting herself involved in? I don't really think so. I mean, clearly, whatever Cottonmouth is operating on, it's clearly not a good thing, and I think she knows that, but she, for some reason, still wants to get herself involved in what he's doing, and I don't really know why, but I really do love her character overall. I can't wait to see where she's going to go, and is she actually someone who could, turn around Harlem? That's going to be the real question to see. But overall, this cast is fantastic. I think everyone really did a great job, and just like the first two Marvel shows, this cast really anchors the show very well, and I think everyone was perfectly casted, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting more into these characters as the series goes on. However, as good as the cast is, the thing that impressed me the most about this first episode and the show so far in general is the directing and the writing, because it's very differently directed and written than other Marvel shows. First of all, the directing in this show, the tone is so 70s. I mean, everything about the show feels like something from the 70s, but it's not. It is, in fact, something modern day, and I thought it was very interesting the way they did that. I really did love the way that was all set up, the fact that this is modern day, and what the tone's able to do. I mean, this is a very dark show, but at times it's kind of darkly humorous, and I really did like that overall. And again, just that 1970s style I thought was very well executed here and very well handled. But the script in the show, like I said, for me, even though this first episode, it wasn't the best premiere they could have done, I do think it was a very solid premiere. This so far seems to be probably Marvel's best show so far. I mean, it's just so different than anything else they've done. This show doesn't even seem to really be about Luke Cage, the hero, and more about Luke Cage, the person, and the place he's living, which is Harlem. And Harlem, we can already tell, is one of the worst places to be. I mean, it's a place filled with poverty and crime and all this stuff going on. Like that very brief scene where Luke is told, to pay his rent, just little things like that really is illustrating how far the series is going to go in showing how bad of a place Harlem really is. And I think Harlem really is the real villain in this show, and I really do love that overall. I think it's very interesting, and I really am looking forward to seeing where the show is going to go. But I also got to give it to Netflix for really just taking a very different approach to the show. I mean, Daredevil, I've said, that is a crime drama. Jessica Jones is a film noir. This show is a blaxploitation. That is exactly what this is. This is very much a social commentary on what it means to be black in New York in, 2016. I think it has a lot to say about that, and it doesn't at all feel cliche. It feels like what's going on is very much what could be going on, and Luke Cage in general, I like that he isn't really like a hero here. It's just another guy involved in this, and I really do like that overall. I thought that was very well handled, and I also like the very subtle references, which I think this is the most subtle show we've had in terms of references to Marvel. I mean, just the way they name dropped, Iron Man or Hulk, and they didn't point to the camera. Very subtly done, and I really like that overall. And I heard a big part of the show is going to be how Luke Cage is going to be someone who's needed when the Avengers aren't really around, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that's really going to go, because I think that overall is very interesting. And the characters in general, I mean, these characters, the show already has so much to say about new beginnings and turning your life around and kind of just accepting who you are and taking the right path. And that's something I think the show did a very good job with. Every Marvel show kind of has struggled with identity, but I feel like Luke Cage is going to be less about his identity and more about his persona as a person overall. Who does Luke Cage really want to be? Does he want to be a hero, or does he just want to be the janitor cleaning up for, Pops? What does he really want to be? And I think this show is really going to tap into that, and I really am looking forward to that overall. The cinematography, right off the bat, stood out to me, because this, by far, is the most immaculate and beautiful show, seeing the cinematography we have had in a Marvel show so far. I mean, there's something just so realistic about it, and I believe they did, in fact, film in Harlem, which is very well done. I very much give the show props for that, because it's not easy easy to film in a place like Harlem. The fact that, you know, Harlem, like I said, is so corrupted, and it's one of the most dangerous areas in New York City. I mean, Harlem is just a terrible reputation, and the cinematography in the show is just beautifully shot. You really do feel like you're in these amazing places, and I think they did an incredible job with shooting the show. But even the action in the show feels like a step up. I mean, that scene where Luke Cage is kicking ass, they did a really great job with that overall. But I do like that the show is not overly saturated on let's make Luke Cage kick ass. No, it's more focused on how Luke Cage doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to just be someone that kicks ass all the time. He wants to be a normal guy, and very much he's affected by what happened to his wife, and I can't wait to see the way they turn on that. I also love the music in this show. It's all like rap music, and it fits very well for a show like this, because again, this doesn't feel like a Marvel show. It feels very much like a blaxploitation, and I was surprised that they were able to get away with saying the N-word as many times as they did, but they said it a lot throughout this episode, and honestly, again, that's very realistic. If you're in Harlem, they probably do name drop that a lot. I mean, it's not uncommon nowadays to hear that, and I think they did a great job with that. And overall, I really did love the score. I thought it was very well done. The intro of the show is badass. I absolutely love the intro. There's something so epic about it, especially the shot I showed you in the beginning of this video where he's, you know, putting his hand, you know, where he's about to punch and it just cuts, and then the Luke Cage. I just love the intro overall. I think it's very well handled, and overall, I think really in terms of production, this show is really just another great entry into the Marvel, you know, the Marvel Netflix series. So overall, guys, I really did love this first episode. I really do give them props for doing something different, because every episode seems to be a lot of exposition, but there really wasn't a ton of it here. A lot of this was just seeing how things play out, setting up the show overall. Obviously, there are questions that we have, but there are definitely a lot more, you know, answers to what the show is going to be, and there's a lot less things to introduce than I thought there was going to be, because a lot of Netflix shows so far, it's been, we get introduced to like a few characters, and then we don't meet half of them till later into the show, and this show does not seem like it's going to be yet. There's only one character we haven't met yet, so that's the main character, and I can't wait to see where that's going to go overall. But overall, guys, most guys saw this first episode, love to your thoughts on it. I really did love this first episode overall. I am going to review episode 2 tonight, but the next review will not be for that. It will actually be for Quarry, because I have to review episode 3 before episode 4 comes on tonight, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.